Good afternoon, and welcome to the Wednesday afternoon conference call with Trusts Unlimited. This is Jim George speaking. I'm the non-attorney spokesman and facilitator for Trusts Unlimited. I'd like to thank all of you for taking the time to listen to this call, particularly those of you calling in for the first time and those that will be listening to the replay over the next 24 to 48 hours. We like to move quickly through these calls and bottom line the information for you. We know you're busy people. You have other things to do. We have a standard format on our calls. We spend a few minutes talking about the reinstitution and eventual revaluation of the Iraqi dinar, which we continue to believe is the base currency for the potential reset of some of these other currencies. A few minutes talking about the program we've put in place to assist you, and then we go to a brief Q&A. So let's go ahead and get started and talk a little bit about the situation in Iraq. First, by way of disclaimer, Trusts Unlimited is not the purveyor of the dinar and these other currencies. We're not advocating either the sale or the purchase of these currencies, but as rather substantial currency holders ourselves, we're sharing with you the information that we think is relevant. The first piece of information that's of great interest to those of us that do hold the dinar is a potential window for the reinstitution of that currency. Based on the situation in Iraq today as we speak, we're looking at a window for the reinstitution of the currency within the next 30 to 45 days. So we've shortened the time frame pursuant to what's happening in Iraq. And things are moving very rapidly in Iraq, and they're all moving in the right direction. Al-Kazemi is now officially the Prime Minister designate of Iraq. His cabinet of ministers has been approved. President Trump and new Prime Minister Al-Kazemi did speak on the phone. They pledged mutual assistance with one another, moving towards economic and political stability in Iraq. Trump does want Kazemi to assist with the movement toward their elections as soon as possible. To that end, Kazemi said that he does support the work of the High Electoral Commission. That commission has already released a package of 10 major governmental reforms for national stability and moving toward their elections. There is a vote on the 2020 budget, but it has been postponed until after the sacrificial holiday of Eid al-Fitr on the 24th and 25th of May. What is likely to occur with the budget, because of the sliding scale with regard to the price of a barrel of oil and the reinstitution of their currency, two fluid issues, they're probably going to do what they've done in the past, go to a 1/12 or month-to-month budget. The thing that's good about that is that makes it easier for them to go ahead and reinstate their currency. Now, the last issue, which in my view is very important, is the Shia blocs have expressed public support for Al-Kazemi and the reform package and have requested the assistance of the United States. Translation, Iran is out. Their pilfering from Iraq is over. Their intimidation, threats, and bribery of the Shia blocs is no longer effective. And the death of Soleimani and Mohandes was basically the beginning of the end of Iran's interference in Iraq. If you go back and look at the video of the mullahs at the funeral of Soleimani, they were all weeping bitterly, not only for the loss of Soleimani, but with regard to their pilfering of Iraq, game over. So we are in a very good position. Obviously, we're talking about the Middle East, so there could always be an X factor out there. But as we speak today, and in conclusion, things are moving rapidly in Iraq, and they're all moving in the right direction. We already know that the CBI has concluded its work. What they needed was the institution of their government, which they now have, reforms for their elections later in the year, which they now have, and the elimination of the Iranian interference, which they've now accomplished. Now that means those of you who have not as yet gotten your affairs in order prior to the revaluation of the dinar have precious little time left to do so. Most dinarians are not wealthy individuals per se. They're average, hardworking individuals who for the first time in their life will be faced with managing a rather large sum of money. To that end, Trusts Unlimited has put a turnkey program in place to assist you. It's a two-phased program. Phase 1 is pre-RV. Phase 2 is post-RV. Pre-RV involves the establishment of a package of pre-RV asset protection trusts with the assignment of your currencies on paper to that trust package. Post-RV involves all of the products and services that you're going to need and want after the revaluation of the dinar and hopefully some of these other currencies. So let's start with Phase 1, which is, again, the establishment of a package of pre-RV asset protection trusts with the assignment of your currencies on paper to that trust package. Now, there are a number of very good reasons why Trusts Unlimited has established a package of irrevocable trusts, and I'll be getting into that in a moment. But very simply, that's because it's the best possible domestic asset protection available, both pre- and post-RV. Now, there are other entities that people have established to provide some level of asset protection, but these are inferior to the Trusts Unlimited package. For example, some individuals have established LLCs and sub-S corporations. They do provide some level of asset protection, but primarily by dividing business assets from personal assets. And these currencies are a personal asset. In addition, courts have ruled that LLCs and sub-S corporations owned in the majority by one individual or a closely held group can be pierced for civil litigation. So the LLC and the sub-S corporation are not going to provide the level of asset protection you're going to need and want. Some individuals have established an entity referred to as a revocable or living trust. And these trusts will exempt your estate from probate and can, in some cases, substantially reduce and even eliminate the federal estate tax. But the revocable or living trust cannot provide any privacy or asset protection. Some individuals have established single irrevocable trusts, and those trusts do provide more asset protection than the previous entities I just discussed, but the individual irrevocable trust has one flaw, and that is that all of your assets and net worth are housed in that one entity. So if any asset within that entity gets involved in civil litigation, that would necessarily drag all of your other assets and net worth into that litigation. The solution to this problem is to establish a package of irrevocable trusts, and again, that is the best bulletproof asset protection available in the United States of America. But there's more. In addition to establishing this package, it must be established prior to the revaluation of these currencies in order to provide asset protection both pre- and post-RV. And I'll discuss with you here the reasons for that. First, by establishing our package of trusts, you will preserve your privacy and your anonymity. That's because assets within our trust package are sealed, meaning that the general public will have no knowledge of your net worth or your actual holdings. Second, by establishing this package, you will be able to successfully avoid personal IRS scrutiny. If you are holding these currencies in direct title when they revalue, the IRS computers will most likely spit out an audit. And with the potential magnitude of this revaluation relative to your prior year's earnings, you're probably looking at a full-blown 6-year audit. Such an audit would be time-consuming. It would certainly be frustrating because it's come along at the point of the exchange of currencies, and an audit from the IRS is the last thing you want to be dealing with at that point in time. And the cost of a 6-year audit would probably be more than the cost of our asset protection trust package. On the other hand, if your pre-RV asset protection trust package is in force and you have assigned your pre-valued currencies to that trust package, you will have successfully transferred the taxable event of this revaluation from yourself personally to the trust. Now, this is important for 2 reasons. First, there's less than a 10% chance of an IRS audit if this taxable event were to occur within a rather sophisticated trust package such as ours. But second, and most importantly, even if the IRS determines to audit your trust, they can't do a 6-year audit. Why? Because the only taxable event within the trust will be the revaluation itself. The third reason you'd want to establish this trust package is if you plan on gifting currencies to family and friends in certain situations. Philanthropic gifting can always be done on a tax-preferred basis, either pre- or post-RV. But in order to avoid a substantial 40% federal gift tax, you're going to need to gift currencies to family and friends prior to the revaluation. Now, if you're gifting to individuals that you have no problem giving them the currency to exchange for themselves, or giving them the U.S. dollar lump sum after you have negotiated the exchange, that can be accomplished outside of a trust with a standard gift letter. But if you are hesitant for any reason to give these individuals the post-RV lump sum, you can gift to them through our specially designed gift subtrust, which is part of our trust package. By gifting through this subtrust, their U.S. dollars will be protected along with yours. The language of this subtrust will allow you to gift up to a certain amount of a currency or currencies, meaning you can gift to these individuals the exact U.S. dollar amount that you had in mind, irrespective of the exchange rate. And because you're gifting to them through this subtrust, you will be able to manage, invest, and distribute this money to these individuals as you deem appropriate. The fourth reason you'd want to establish this trust package is because it's been structured in such a way as to allow your estate to bypass the cost and delay of probate and the federal estate tax. I'll give you 2 quick scenarios. Scenario number 1, you purchase 5 million dinar for $5,000. The day after that, those currencies revalue for $25 million. The day after that, you pass away, leaving your heirs an estate of $25 million. Now, this estate must go through probate, a process that ordinarily can take anywhere from 6 to 18 months. But probate is a public disclosure process, meaning that the general public will be aware of the size of your estate, who your heirs are, and how much they each stand to inherit. So if anyone feels they have a legitimate claim against you, your estate, or your heirs, they could simply file that claim with a probate court. And that could tie the estate up for years, and in some cases even decades. And your heirs will have either limited access or no access at all to their respective inheritance until the probate process is completed. Then there's something called the federal estate tax. This is the tax that the federal government would assess in order for that estate to be transferred to heirs. Under current law, approximately $10 million of that $25 million estate would bypass any federal estate tax. But the balance could be taxed as much as 55%. Now, this scenario is not only unacceptable, it's completely and totally avoidable. Scenario number 2, you purchase 5 million dinar for $5,000. The day after that, you assign those currencies on paper to our asset protection trust package. The day after that, those currencies revalue for $25 million. The day after that, you pass away, leaving your heirs that very same estate of $25 million, but this time protected in our asset protection trust package. As a result, there will be no probate, there will be no public disclosure of your estate, Your heirs will have immediate access to their respective inheritance, and the federal estate tax will be zero, saving your heirs as much as 55% of their inheritance. The fifth reason you'd want to establish this pre-RV trust package is for some very specific asset protection benefits. One pre-RV, one post-RV. Pre-RV, this trust package will allow you to circumvent something called the Uniform Fraudulent Transfer Act. What does that mean? Under our system of civil procedure, you can only be sued for what you actually own in direct title or the value of property at the time you transfer it out of title to an entity like our trust package. So let's take the previous example from before. You purchase 5 million dinar for $5,000. You transfer or assign those currencies on paper to our trust package. They subsequently revalue for $25 million. You begin to live a lifestyle more reflective of your newfound wealth, and a couple of years down the road, someone sees that you're living rather comfortably and decides that for whatever reason they're going to sue you. Well, this prospective plaintiff has a couple of problems. First, he or she better have a very strong case and very deep pockets, because this trust package has been structured in such a way as to make it extremely expensive and extremely time-consuming to pursue civil litigation. But second, and most importantly, once any prospective plaintiff learns that pursuant to the Uniform Fraudulent Transfer Act, the only thing they could ever win by way of a civil award would be the value of the property at the time you transferred it out of title to our trust, $5,000, and none of the post-RV value of $25 million, there will be no lawsuit. Post-RV, there is a benefit I like to refer to as limited liability stop-loss. This protects you from future bad acts after you have acquired this wealth. This protection is accomplished through a legal strategy called segregation of assets. This is why we have established a package of trusts, and this is how it would work. Once again, we'll use the same example. You purchase 5 million dinar for $5,000, transfer the currencies to our trust. They subsequently revalue for $25 million. Now that you have $25 million in trust, you decide to make some purchases. So you purchase a larger primary residence, a vacation home, perhaps a half a dozen rental properties for tax write-off and additional cash flow, a couple of cars, a boat, and let's say an RV. But as you purchase these items, you place each of them in their own separate subtrust to be managed by your master trust. Now, why is this critical from an asset protection standpoint? I'll give you an example. Let's say one day you're driving one of your new cars. You have an accident. The accident is clearly your fault, and tragically someone is seriously injured or even killed. Well, the family of the victim is going to want to sue you. But remember, civil suits are about monetary awards, and you don't legally own anything. So the plaintiffs would be left to sue the owner of the car that you were driving. Well, who owns that car? One of your subtrusts, of which you are merely the beneficiary. And what's in that subtrust? Merely that one car and the car insurance policy. In that scenario, the car insurance carrier will negotiate an out-of-court settlement with the victim's family. You will not be involved in those rather unpleasant negotiations. The car insurance carrier will repair or replace your car, making you whole. And this is important. All of your other assets and net worth are safely protected in the other subtrusts. Why? Because under the law, those separate subtrusts are separate legal entities or separate legal persons. They were not driving the car involved in the accident, nor do they own the car that was involved in the accident. And so they are free from any potential litigation in such a case. So your trust package works very much the way a barge would work, a commercial barge, where all of the valuable cargo is stored in a series of small compartments. Why? In the event that any compartment is ever breached, the only potential loss would be the cargo in that one compartment. The cargo in the other compartments is safe and secure due to the firewalls, and the barge will never sink. Now, these benefits are lost to you if you do not establish your package of trusts prior to the revaluation of these currencies. Now, there is one other benefit, and it's this. If you are, in fact, the holder of one of our pre-RV asset protection trust packages, then you will be eligible to participate in all the products, services, and professional referrals that will be made available to you after the revaluation. I'll just make mention of one here. Trusts Unlimited will be sponsoring a post-RV seminar to be held in Disney World, Florida, approximately 30 days after the revaluation of the Iraqi dinar. Present at that seminar will, of course, be the staff of Trusts Unlimited to assist you with the management and funding of your trust packages. Many of our clients have already expressed desires to establish scholarship funds, foundational trusts, special needs trusts, charitable remainder trusts, and even the more complicated 501c3 nonprofit and offshore trusts. And the proper way to fund those entities is with the direct transfer of funds from your asset protection trust to those newly formed entities. We'll also have our tax specialists there. With this newfound wealth, you're going to need and want critical information about some of the more sophisticated tax strategies that you can employ to reduce your exposure to federal and state taxes. We'll also have our independent fee-based wealth managers there as well. You're going to want to reposition assets after the revaluation for a number of reasons. First, we know statistically that 95% of all windfalls, however large and from whatever source, are lost within 3 to 5 years due to inexperience, mismanagement, and fraud. We also know that under the new G20 bank bail-in provisions, the failure of banks in the future will no longer be made whole through the general taxing authority of the respective governments, but first and foremost by the confiscation of funds at the accounts at those banks. So you're going to want to get money out of the banks and at work in other markets. And lastly, the general global shift from fiat-based to Basel III compliant commodity-backed currencies in and of itself is going to create extremely volatile financial markets, and you're going to want a substantial amount of your net worth in tangible assets in order to avoid that volatility. Now, our trust package is initially a package of 10 trusts consisting of one master trust that will hold your assigned currencies pre-RV, financial assets like bank accounts and investment accounts post-RV, and manage your subtrusts. You will also have one optional gift subtrust, which can at any time be converted to a standard subtrust, and then 8 additional standard subtrusts. Now, this was the simplification of a rather sophisticated trust package that we've utilized in the past for our more affluent clients, a package that had an initial cost of anywhere from $6,000 to $10,000. But nearly a decade ago, when we decided to work with Dinarians, we knew that that price tag was going to be unaffordable for too many. So by simplifying the trust package and postponing funding post-RV, we've been able to reduce the cost to $3,000. Now, there are several ways you can pay for that. If you pay us up front, we'll discount the price further to $2,500, saving you an additional $500. If that's not possible, we do have a deferred payment arrangement. You'd make an initial payment of $525, which sum would basically offset our out-of-pocket costs just to produce and deliver your trust. The balance of the $3,000 would then be paid in $100 monthly installments. We will charge no interest. The only proviso is once the revaluation of the Iraqi dinar occurs, any unpaid balance would need to be paid within 30 days. Now, with this approach, anyone that has currencies and understands the need for getting their trust in place and their affairs in order pre-RV should be in a position to afford to do so. One other suggestion. We do accept credit cards. Pay us up front with a credit card. Not only will you get the $500 discount, but the minimum payment on your card would be substantially less than the $100 a month you'd pay us under our deferred payment arrangement. But we will work with you in whatever method works best for you. Again, our objective is to help you get your affairs in order and your trust in place prior to the revaluation of the dinar and some of these other currencies for all of the reasons that we've stated here. One other point with the trust, that $3,000 fee is the total lifetime fee for this trust package. The only other cost would be the paralegal fees to make changes and to fund the sub-trusts. And I'll give you an example. Let's say after the revaluation you come to us about 3 months later and say, we'd like to purchase a $400,000 beach home and we'd like to create a sub-trust to protect that home. The paralegal fee to create a sub-trust to protect that $400,000 asset would be somewhere between $150 and $250, a very nominal fee. And again, that's the only additional cost to the trust, the paralegal fees. Now, that's basically the information I wanted to provide for you today. Again, it looks as though the window is beginning to close on the reinstitution of the Iraqi dinar. So I strongly suggest that if the things we've discussed here today are of interest, you contact us to get our no-obligation package. We're going to go to a Q&A in just a moment, and I'll give you our contact information. But before we do, and again for our newer callers, I'd like to tell you a little bit about Trusts Unlimited and why you may want to seriously consider contacting us for our initial no-obligation package. Our trust package was authored by our attorney, Robert Bly. He's been a practicing attorney for over 40 years, specializing in the areas of estate planning, asset protection, and offshore planning. I myself hold degrees in political science, macroeconomics, and finance. I've worked in these areas for over 38 years, and I, along with my clients, were personally involved in the reinstatement of the Kuwaiti dinar in the early 90s. So between the two of us, Robert Bly and I have over 78 years' experience working precisely in this area. And I frankly know of no firm that can make that claim. Now, Bob and I have been working together for a decade in the areas of estate planning, asset protection, and offshore planning. And it has been disheartening from time to time to see people walk away from sound estate planning and trust creation because of the mistaken belief that by doing so they have somehow lost control of their assets and their affairs. Under our system of civil litigation, it's when you hold assets in direct title that you can lose control of them or lose them outright. If you've lived for any length of time, you've either experienced in your own life or through friends and family things like unexpected divorce, permanent incapacitation, the onset of dementia, premature death and prolonged and complicated probate processes. Then there are investment losses, business losses, and even bankruptcies. The number 2 loss of wealth now in the aggregate, courtesy of the information age, is identity theft. But the number 1 loss of personal wealth remains confiscation through civil litigation. Anything you own in direct title can be taken from you. So in point of fact, the only way that you can manage, protect, and control everything at all times and in all circumstances is through the establishment of a package of irrevocable trusts, and particularly if you have an asset like these currencies that you're anticipating a substantial increase in value. And we at Trusts Unlimited will do everything we can to help you accomplish your personal and financial objectives both pre- and post-RV as we understand them. Again, thanks for taking the time to listen to this call. I'm going to open the Q&A in just a moment. When I do, if the things we've discussed are of interest, I suggest you write down our contact information. We'd be happy to send you our initial no-obligation package. It does include everything you need if you decide you want to proceed to establish a trust, but it has a lot of information about us, about the trusts, the revaluation. You can review the package, contact us by phone or email if you have any questions. We'll be happy to assist you in any way, and there will be no consultation fee or fees of any kind for disseminating whatever information you might additionally need. I'm going to open the Q&A now. 2 quick rules on the Q&A. We don't accept service calls on the Q&A. This time is reserved for individuals interested in our services. And obviously, in order to participate in the Q&A, your name and number must be on the screen. So I'm going to go ahead and open the Q&A now. And while I'm waiting for any potential questions, I'd like to give you our contact information. You can go to our website, which is trusts with an S, unlimitedllc.com. Our email address is trusts with an S, unlimitedllc@gmail.com. Our phone service is 307-274-4122. If you'd like to listen to a recent conference call playback, or if you'd be kind enough to refer us to someone that might be interested in our services, you can either go to YouTube and then go to Trusts Unlimited, or you can go to IQD Calls and go to Trusts Unlimited, or you can simply dial the same number that you dialed for this live call this afternoon, with the exception of the last digit or number. Rather than dialing a 4, you'll dial a 3, and then use the same access code, which is 739-394#. If you'd like to be included on our email list, you can go to our website, go to the bottom, enter your name and email address where indicated. You should be on our email list within 24 hours. Bear in mind that we only send emails out very periodically, pre-RV, but post-RV emails may go out as often as weekly. So let's get to the Q&A. Our first caller here is area code 312. 312, that's got to be Les.
Yes, sir. Good afternoon, Jim. How are you?
Same to you, my friend. What's up?
Well, question regarding the loans that Iraq was asking for a couple weeks ago. Did they receive any new loans prior to?
I know from the call that I was on a couple of weeks ago, the IMF was willing to extend loans. They were speaking at the time specifically about economic issues having to do with the coronavirus. But at this point, I have no doubt that either the IMF will grant a loan or the United States will back a loan. So I don't see any. I'm sure whatever they need, having gotten this, the CBI work is done, the new government's in place up until the new election. So that being done, I don't see any problem at all with their getting loans.
Okay. Now, the new election that will be coming up, will that delay the RV? Since it was a topic, it will not. Okay.
In my opinion, not at all.
All right, because that was a subject that came up on a news feed yesterday, that the revaluing of their currency was at the top of this list of 6 or 7 items.
If it was impossible for the reinstitution of their currency until there was elections, then they wouldn't even be proceeding the way they are now, in my view.
I agree.
I think they're 100% open for business now, and that's why what really happened, and this is just my opinion, the real linchpin to this is not the fact that they've got this basically government designate in place or that the CBI is ready to go. The real critical issue is, and I said at the end, Iran is out. When you got to go all the way back to Maliki and Obama, both of whom were pro-Iranian, that was the problem to begin with. Everything else could have gotten done but even if they got it all done, Iran was the problem. Iran is no longer a problem, in my opinion.
Well, I was glad to hear that, because if that is the case, that means the auctions stopping, which was one of the items on their list, should be happening real soon.
Yeah, and the thing is with all of this getting done, they don't need the U.S. dollar. They want their currency. They want to use their currency. All they'll need to do is reinstitute. Yeah, I think they'll, some say it'll be slightly less than $1, but close enough that, it's worth dumping the dollar. I think it's going to come out at a slight premium over the dollar. Say, dollar, the dinar, an Iraqi dinar will be worth $1.10 or $1.15, just enough for them to be justified dumping the dollar and using their own currency.
All right. Well, I hope that happens soon.
Yes, sir.
Thanks for taking my call, and say hi to the professor.
Will do. Take care, Les. Bye-bye.
Thanks. You too, Jim. Bye.
Our next caller is area code 347. That's 347. Go ahead.
Yeah, this person from New York now. What about the 2% compliance rule? Does that still have to be within the limits of the RV to take place, or will be like the IMF, and will they let that slide?
I think they're going to let that slide because the issue, in other words, the 2% issue was an issue when they were really involved heavily in the auction. So with the cease and desist on the auctions, then the 2% spread really doesn't matter. So I don't think that's going to be an issue at all.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir. Well, that was our last call for this afternoon. Again, I'd like to thank all of you for taking the time to listen to our call. If the things we've discussed here, again, are of interest, I strongly suggest you contact us now because it does look as though the time is waning to get your trust enforced prior to the revaluation of these currencies. That's a very good thing. Again, I want to thank all of you for listening to the call. Our next call is scheduled for next Wednesday. Certainly, if something of a dramatic nature were to happen between now and then, and it's a distinct possibility, we'll try to get out an emergency email and schedule an emergency conference call. But failing that, we will be back next Wednesday, noon Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific. Thanks for listening, and have a great week, everyone. Bye-bye.